The United States prepares to officially declare the Venezuelan drug cartel personally run by dictator Nicolas Maduro as a terrorist organization. And Congress spends the weekend fighting over extending the COVID-era Obamacare subsidies. I'm Tony Kinnett, host of the Daily Signal's Tony Kinnett Cast, syndicated nationally at 7 p.m. Eastern. It is Monday, November 17th, 2025. This is the Daily Signal's top news in 10. According to United States Southern Command, on Saturday, November 15th, at the direction of Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Joint Task Force Southern Spear conducted a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel operated by a designated terrorist organization. Intelligence confirmed that the vessel was involved in illicit narcotics smuggling, transiting along a known narco-trafficking route, and carrying narcotics. 3 male narco-terrorists aboard the vessel were killed. The vessel was trafficking narcotics in the Eastern Pacific and was struck in international waters. Following, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, announced that he would be in talks with Nicolas Maduro over Venezuelan-United States relations as tensions rise.
We may be having some discussions with Maduro, and we'll see how that turns out.
Meanwhile, over the weekend, Nicolas Maduro spent his time singing John Lennon's Imagine to the crowds in Venezuela. No, I'm not kidding.
Alfred Nazaret, ¿cómo era la canción de John Lennon? Imagine us people. Mira, son jodedores, vale. Qué canción tan bella, la letra. Para las más jóvenes, busquen la letra. Es una inspiración para todos los tiempos, es un himno para todas las épocas y generaciones que dejó John Lennon como regalo a la humanidad. Que viva la memoria eterna de ese gran poeta y música, John Lennon.
And yesterday evening, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that the United States State Department intends to designate the Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization. Quote, headed by the illegitimate Nicolas Maduro, the group has corrupted the institutions of government in Venezuela and is responsible for terrorist violence conducted by and with other designated foreign terrorist organizations, as well as for trafficking drugs into the United States and Europe, end quote. Democrat Senator from New Hampshire, Shaheen, said that she didn't believe Maduro was a good guy, but said he was not a threat to the U.S.
I don't think it's clear what the end game is for this administration with respect to Venezuela. They're relying on a legal opinion, excuse me, in terms of the boat strikes that they have not released. They have finally made it available to members of Congress, but they haven't released it to the public. They are escalating in a way that, talking about a land strike through special operations that puts at risk our men and women in the military. We have so much firepower now in the Caribbean. The Gerald R. Ford has been taken from the Red Sea so that now we don't have any firepower really in the Middle East as we look at the threats there. We don't have what we need, I think, in the Indo-Pacific or in Europe. And so what the president has done here is to put at risk other parts of the world and Americans in other parts of the world for this fascination on trying to get rid of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, who clearly is a bad character. He's been involved in illegal drugs, but he is not a threat to the United States of America. And what the president is doing is raising real questions.
On CBS Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan, United States Army Secretary Dan Driscoll stated that while he had not been given any immediate orders by the President of the United States, the U.S. Army stood ready to assist in whatever way the President needed.
Quickly on News of Day, the President did say he sort of made up his mind on Venezuela. I know this is the Marines, this is the Navy that are deployed. But does the Venezuelan Army pose any kind of threat to the U.S. if action's taken?
I think that the President and Secretary of War have spent a lot of time thinking about what is the best thing they can do for the American people. And I can speak from the Army's perspective, which is we have a lot of training in that part of the world. We're reactivating our jungle school in Panama. We would be ready to act on whatever the President and Secretary of War needed.
But no orders beyond these exercises at this point?
We don't talk about those kinds of things, but we would be ready if asked.
The Army Secretary also stated that drones and flying IED devices are, quote, the threat of humanity's lifetime, end quote.
The United States Army has been put in charge of the counter drone threat for the Pentagon. And then we are working hand in glove with the broader law enforcement agencies. We just last week had a meeting right outside the White House where what we are trying to do, because this problem is different from nearly anything we faced in a long time, it is a flying IED. And so this IED,
explosive.
Improvised explosive device. Right. They're cheap. You can 3D print them at home, and they cross borders incredibly quickly. And so what you basically need is a digital layer to exchange information and exchange sensing and allow the closest person on the ground or the closest effector on the ground to be able to take out a drone. And Senator Cotton is right. I mean, this is the threat of humanity's lifetime. What's occurring in Ukraine, what's happening in Russia, if you look at the speed and scale of the devastation that can come from drones, we as a federal government have got to lead on it.
Last week, the Daily Signal asked the Navy Secretary about its plan amid shipbuilding to increase drone defense in the United States. Meanwhile, Congress spent the majority of its weekend with its individual members getting on every single interview and weekend show they could to argue about extending the COVID-era Obamacare subsidies, and Democrat Representative Tom Suozzi of New York and Republican Representative Don Bacon of Nebraska pitched a bipartisan proposal that essentially amounts to extending the ACA tax subsidies.
I understand this is a 2-year proposed extension of those enhanced premium tax credits and an income cap that phases out for those making between $200,000 to $400,000. When you look at the breakdown, though, that's a pretty small portion of the overall recipients of the tax credits. It's like less than 10%. So what does this accomplish? How does this make it more affordable and fair?
Well, it helps everybody else who makes under $200,000 dramatically. And the number one concern people have in America is affordability, and healthcare affordability is right at the top of the list. So we need to do something to extend these premium tax credits. It'll save people thousands and thousands of dollars, literally $1,000 a month for some people. So it'll be dramatically more affordable. The people who make above $400,000 are the teeny little percentage of people that are not a very small group of people that would benefit from the existing tax credits. Most of the people are below $200,000. That $200,000 to $400,000 is a way to taper it off so there's not a cliff.
And how much Democratic support do you have for this at this point?
I think the Democrats are going to strongly back the idea of extending premium tax credits so that we can keep people's insurance affordable. So even with these caps, we've got to come up with this compromise, even with the caps. Yeah, Democrats have always said that they want to direct the policy towards lower and middle income folks. People making under $400,000 a year is our bread and butter issues, that we want to try and make things affordable for those folks. And that will be like literally 95%, 99% of the people that are affected right now.
Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican of Louisiana, proposed a counter by suggesting that the money be directly given to Americans to help offset the high deductibles that are often a feature of the proposed, quote, lower cost policies under the ACA.
So first, there's two types of premium tax credits. There's the baseline premium tax credit, which was part of Obamacare. That would stay in effect, and people would still buy a policy. For example, they get in a car wreck, something disastrous. They need somebody negotiating on their behalf with all the providers. That stays the same.
Okay.
What we're talking about, and the shutdown was over, the enhanced premium tax credits. Policies have become so expensive under Obamacare that under Joe Biden, Democrats passed another subsidy on top of the first subsidy. That's what we're fighting about. And what Republicans are saying, and I'd like to hope Democrats will too, hey, wait a second. If we can have lower premiums and help people with their deductible by giving the money directly to the patient, by the way, 20% doesn't go for insurance company profit and overhead, 100% goes for health care. Why don't we unite Republican and Democrats in doing that? That's where the president is. You've got to figure some things out, but we're a lot further along than you might imagine.
Senator Rick Scott, Republican of Florida, joined Fox News Sunday with Shannon Bream to pitch an alternative to the Obamacare funding insurance companies model.
Well, first off, we ought to direct the dollars, as Congressman Barr has said and Trump has said, Give it to the person that is getting is going to buy the health care, the patient. I grew up in a family that my mom struggled to find health care for her brother who had a disease. She had to go 4 hours away to a charity hospital because nobody would take care of him for free. So it's really important to me that we get people health care. So how do you do it? You give money directly to the consumer. They buy the insurance plan they want. You protect pre-existing condition, and you give them information. They should know what everything costs. They should know what the outcomes are. They should know what patient satisfaction. They should be a buyer just like any other. I built on top of a hospital company, I built an urgent care company. We had all of our prices up on the menu board. So everybody could walk in and do it the way they wanted. So if you give it to the individual in HSA, they could pay for a premium, they could pay for their co-payment. They also could pay directly to go get a physical or go see a physician and buy it cheaper. So look, we have to fix this.
Before you go, head down to the description and make sure you're subscribed to the Tony Kinnett Cast. And join us tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, where we dig into the day's news and nonsense. I'm Tony Kinnett, and this has been the Daily Signal's top news in 10. Take care.